Hi, this is Michelle Aiden at the Capitol with Joe Darger and his wife Alina to talk about Mike Noel's bill, House Bill 99, regarding bigamy offense amendments. Can you just explain what the bill is doing?
So the bill was changing the language of, currently it says if you purport or cohabitate, you're guilty of bigamy, which is a third-degree felony. And so this is an attempt to clean up the language that was clearly struck down in the court decision with the Brown case of changing it to if you purport and cohabitate, so that only the people who are purporting and cohabitate, which are plural Mormon families, are criminalized. And that way everyone else is just cohabitating are not included in some kind of criminalization. So this bill clearly targets plural Mormon families to say we've got to eliminate the abuse because we're all abusers, obviously. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to, by de facto, using the language of purporting, and that, you know, if I call her and her two sister wives by calling them sister wives or calling them wives, that is the felony element, and they're making sure that that stays in place here, and kind of doubling down on the language rather than actually trying to work at somehow to decriminalize the innocent families, which is what we want to see, and just go after the abuse cases as abuse, because those laws already exist.
Right. What would you say to those people who support Mike Noel's bill?
Well, I would say come to the table and let's discuss it and find out what all the unintended consequences of a bill like that are, because the purpose is to end abuse, is what has been stated, and we all want to end abuse, and we can come to the table and get a better bill that works for everyone.
I think it's it's well intended, but it's also a little bit of righteous smugness to it, that we think we know what's best and we're going to stereotype all people. And that's when stereotypes hurt. And when the idea of polygamy equals abuse just simply does not hold up. But that's what I would say. The people supporting that, I think, really do want to help and make a difference. It's just they're ignorant and they're uneducated and not really dialed into the unintended consequences.
Okay. What are you trying to do to amend this bill?
So one of the things that we suggested that came up from Representative Green was take the policy. So the AG has this policy, which is the absurdity of it. They have a policy saying we will not prosecute polygamists unless there's abuse. Well, then put that into law, if that's your policy. But even that's disingenuous, because they've had, in case of Daniel Kingston and David Kingston and Warren Jeffs, all were charged with other abuse crimes and were known polygamists, and they did not charge them for polygamy. So they're not even doing that. If you look at the history, and we're still leaving it to the whims of a prosecutor, and they can decide and change that at any time. And then the other thing that does is when we have a law in place like this, that is given license for other kinds of prejudice. You can deny housing, you can deny jobs, you can deny benefits, you can make it more difficult for people that want to actually participate in society, because you now have set us off and said, well, you're a felon, and we know that there's no abuse with your family, so we won't charge you, but we're watching you. And it just simply doesn't work. And I think what happened in committee the other day is we had enough people come and testify, and there were some people testifying of the horrible abuses they've had, and they are horrible, but they could have happened in monogamy.
Yeah.
That doesn't really solve the problem of abuse. And what it doesn't address is the hundreds of people that showed up to testify. We didn't even get to it, but they did a good job trying to get us all in, and we were up till 9 o'clock. And I think in the end they realized this is much more complicated. This can't go forward as it is. So we don't know. Noel hasn't backed down. The AG hasn't backed down. We want to keep having dialogue, and we're here. Even today, we're continuing to, how can we have dialogue? How can we address some of these issues so that the bad people that exist that want to prey upon fears can can actually come to justice, and how do the many, many innocent people not have those fears and can stand up and be heard.
Okay. Is there anything else that you would want the public to know about your plight and what you're trying to do?
I think, we are going to hold a march and a rally. All we can do is petition our leaders and our government representatives and exercise our free speech and let the media know. So things like this help. We're going to rally and just really show support and hope we can get all kinds of people. This isn't a pro-polygamy rally. This is about libertarian principles and liberty principles and about standing up for civil rights. We're actually calling a civil obedience rally. Like, we want to obey the law. Let's have obedience to laws, but let's have laws that make sense.
Yes, I like that. Okay, if you would like any more information or to contact your legislator, just click on the link in the description below.